Hey, that was new to me. That's really
Oh,
cool.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. It's a new countdown that my brother crafted for us so we can have a little bit of variety with our shows here.
Oh, that song's gonna be stuck in my head. Like, I would like to thank that countdown for getting the WandaVision song stuck out of my head, but now I'm gonna be doing that all day until Friday when I'm guessing the next WandaVision song will be in my head.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to LP In Depth. This is a time where Ben, our CEO here at Laughing Place, as we like to call him, and I, Rebecca Mosley, the co-founder of Laughing Place, chat a little bit deep, take a little bit more time talking about a topic that's currently in the news. And this week, we're talking about Sorcerers of the Magic Kingdom.
Yeah, so today is the end date of Sorcerers of the Magic Kingdom. So I figured we would talk a little bit about, its life history, where it places and sort of the pantheon, the evolution of Disney theme park experiences, and where the ending of this and other like experiences means for the future of Disney parks. So I guess it's I can't believe that Sorcerers of the Magic Kingdom has been around for 9 years.
Wow.
I remember playtesting it about 9 years ago. I think we did a test like in early fall, because of it being a different nature, and playing, you're basically playing a game. They brought in different groups to kind of try it out and change difficulty levels and things like that. And so originally the idea was you would go to either the firehouse at Magic Kingdom or for a brief period in Liberty Square by where Tiana and Naveen meet today. You pick up a key card as well as your Sorcerer of the Magic Kingdom deck and a map of all the lands except Tomorrowland. Because it takes places in windows, and I guess in the future we have no windows. But a lot of doors. And so the key card was really like a temp magic band. Once magic bands came along, you just would use your magic band. In similar way to when Test Track reopened, at first they would give you like a scanning card because magic bands hadn't rolled out yet. But you would get these cards, and the idea was you and Merlin would team up to save the Magic Kingdom from villains. And so you'd go to various portals, which were windows or other things throughout the park, and you would a villain would pop up, and you would show your card and battle. And each card on it had different like stats, like a role-playing game. And there was basically 70 initial cards that you could get, various rarities. So it kind of created a collectible aspect to the game. And then they added on different difficulties, but you'd go around the land and you would battle the villains until you won for that period. Now it would sort of, depending on the demand, it would kind of lengthen or shorten the game, send you to portals that were less busy. The window itself had no connection to what you were battling, so they would just sort of move you around to kind of balance out where guests were. And it ran for quite some time, and it at first, like many of these kind of interactive experiences, it burned bright and fast. People wanted the cards. They did special cards for not hard ticket events like Not So Scary and Mickey's Very Merry. But and then it opened in 2012, but in 2013 they modified the hard version to kind of create a longer shelf life for it. But it was an attraction without being investing in a huge new attraction or experience. And some people loved it. Some people hated it because it, ruined the ambiance. Similar to people's concerns with the Kim Possible experience. But it was a different kind of experience at the theme parks, and one that there were more of. And I want to talk a little bit about the background on it, but then also why they're gone.
Yeah, I was just remembering, in looking up information about this topic, I'd forgotten that they even had like T-shirts for a while And
Yeah, you could.
I'd forgotten that there was like, kind of a bit of a merchandise build out from the game itself.
Yeah, and you could wear the T-shirt would give you like a bonus power if you wore the T-shirt, because the trick was too, on easy mode it didn't matter, but you could hold 2 cards at one time to kind of double up your power. And even walking around the Magic Kingdom, you would see people with these binders, like trading card binders, and they would just flash the cards because they were trying to power up their cards, because the more you used them, the more power it got. Very much like a theme park video game.
Yeah, I saw this over at our friend the Disney blog, but
Oh, yeah.
yeah, no, it was one of those things where I'd forgotten kind of when it first started. I can remember I was pretty hyped to give it a try, and I enjoyed the first time I tried it, but I never really got around to like doing it again. And then it started to get more complicated as I played, and I just didn't want to kind of learn I have to make sure I play card A before card B, or this kind of it became a little too much for me. I'm more of an old school, like squeeze my tummy, squeeze my hand, and I'll do things for you.
Yeah, we'll talk about you in a little minute. They yeah, I remember going to my comic book shop and it had a little sign that says buy, sell, trade, Sorcerers of the Magic Kingdom cards. And I think that's why I didn't do it as often, was because there was people who were really into it. And, I wasn't going to be that. I didn't have the time for that. And so you just kind of felt like you were, like I always felt like I was kind of in their way, because they were just going around to portal to power up their cards. And I just was like, I mean, this is fine. But, now we have these phones where you can play similar kind of game in the palm of your hand.
Right.
So where this came from was kind of a meshing of 2 initiatives that were happening, one on the WDI side and one on the park operations side. So Bruce Vaughn ran WDI from 2007 to 2016. And one of his major initiatives was what they called the Living Character Initiative. Things like Turtle Talk with Crush, which is still operating, obviously, but also Lucky the Dinosaur, and more lifelike character experiences were kind of part of that, where they wanted these characters to not just be come across like something from Itchy and Scratchy World. The sort of mute theme park character had become almost a punchline in many ways, sort of like how bad AA shows kind of became like Lester's Possum Park. So they wanted to kind of use technology to bring characters to life in a new way and make them interactive and have conversations with you. I remember there's all sorts of playtests. There was Stitch's picture phone.
That's what I remember.
There was like a very short Pocahontas and Miko show. Mm-hmm. Lucky the Dinosaur obviously kind of did his world tour for a little while.
Yes.
But then on the other side, so they were investing in technology in a very much interactive way. In fact, if you think back to theme park attractions at that time, everything had to have an interactive element. Buzz Lightyear, when it opened at Disneyland in 2005, even had like a video game you could play at home to kind of boost people's scores while they're playing. Like everything,
I've forgotten that.
Everything kind of had that. That was where they thought they were trying to make theme parks more relevant by making them more like video games. On the other side, on the park side, they were doing what the infamous NGE project, or My Disney Experience, where they would want you to be able to customize your theme park experience. So they thought this was all going to be about personalization. And so things like when you went on Small World, they would flash your name. And now granted, they probably had bigger ideas and dreams than ended up actually happening. But one part of that was Fastpass Plus. So every guest was supposed to come into the park with 3 fast passes. Well, when you're going to give out more fast passes, that means you got to have more things to have in the park. One to provide fast pass for, and one to provide other things to do. Now, Sorcerers of the Magic Kingdom never had fast pass, but it was conceived that you'd make a reservation to go play the game at one point. Never came to fruition. But the idea was they wanted these Disney experiences to be personal, hence the term My Disney Experience, right? This is mine. My name on Small World. When I go to the theme park, they'll know it's my birthday. Now, once again, like many things, they dreamt big. part of it came to fruition, part successfully, some parts not. But those were the two forces that kind of created a lot of these experiences, which started with your friend there, Pal Mickey. Once again, didn't last very long, but there was a huge push. In fact, all the buses had my Pal Mickey license plate covers on the front, where in Florida you don't have a license plate. They would put Pal Mickey license plate covers. He was supposed to be a big deal. And he kind of stemmed from even before this, when they would have those interactive pins from the Millennium Celebration.
From 100 years.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, for 100 years, which would have been 2001. And so the idea was they would use those emitters to have him interact with you on theme park attractions, as well as you could play games with him within the park. But that required a purchase. You had to buy Pal Mickey.
And carry him. And,
so I think one of the challenges they had with Pal Mickey was you're going to make an investment in him. So how do you keep him current? And, a guest who's going to go for a week might not be as interested because he's only going to have a week shelf life. I mean, he did things at home, but, for what they're billing it out. Yeah. But then for a repeat guest, the technology at the time only had so much capacity, and it kind of wore thin, which is going to be a theme you're going to hear a lot.
I was kind of surprised with the Pal Mickey when he came out at the time that they weren't able to utilize him more beyond the parks. But like you say, it's probably more about technology at the time. I mean, I'm envisioning him now. He'd be more like, an Alexa almost, whereas like as long as there's a Wi-Fi adjacent, he could dump any kind of information they wanted to you. So it's just interesting how things have changed.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, as we get into it, what's the future of this kind of experience? Is not going to die because it hasn't died for 20 years.
Right.
So, they're going to, and we'll talk a little bit about the metaverse, and, after we're done looking back, but, what does that mean moving forward? But in 2009, they had the Kim Possible World Showcase Adventure, which in its initial run, they would check you out a flip phone or a communicator, and you'd go around to a pavilion and do interactive elements in the pavilion. And while you watch little elements on your phone, so you could turn on a pop-up BB like in Japan pavilion here, or even in China, you would go to give a code word to a merchandise host, and they give you a fortune cookie with the code in it. And so, and initially that was very popular because it was something new, and it was a way to provide amusement in World Showcase, which tends to be pretty dry for the younger set. Somewhere between Pidcot and shopping for a new Moroccan rug. It was. Now, obviously, in Disney, in its infinite wisdom, launched this at the tail end of Kim Possible's run. Eventually, they evolved it a couple years later to Phineas and Ferb, which ended its Disney Channel run around the same time. And now it was announced. Now we don't know if it's going to move forward, but that they were going to evolve it to DuckTales right as that was airing its final season. So they have a MO. I'm not quite sure why. So then in 2011, Aulani opened, and they did a similar thing with the Menehune experience over there, which we just did at Aulani when we were just there. And granted, the resort was not popular at the time because of the COVID situation. Also, but I was the only people I saw doing the Menehune experience.
Okay.
So then 2012, you probably had what I would consider one of the most successful iterations of these kinds of experiences with the Midship Detective Agency, with the launch of the Disney Dream, and then the subsequent launch of the Disney Fantasy. Now, because you were on the ship, it was a way to provide an interactive experience where you go around the ship and play games, not so much a combat style as you did with Sorcerers of the Magic Kingdom, but various like flashlight style or pop the balloons with your card. But similar concept where you'd have a card and you would engage with the window, or in this case, a painting.
The card was almost like a long distance stylus. By moving the card, you were in essence moving a cursor around the screen, but you weren't actually making direct contact with something.
And it should be noted, so they launched with the Mickey version, and when the Fantasy, they added a Muppets version. It was Mickey, Dalmatians, and then they added the Muppets. It's still running. Well, it's not running right now, but it was running recently.
Yes.
On the Disney Cruise Line. And I think we'll be curious to see if the new ships have this kind of experience as well.
And it even had, as far as like with the Muppets, they actually had additional infrastructure, for lack of a better word, where you had decor that was specifically designed and designated for the detective agency. It wasn't just purely based on what was kind of already in existence.
Right. Yeah, and what's interesting about this is obviously the cruise ships are not the same. I mean, it's probably more comparable to Alani than it is to a theme park experience. Where I think part of the challenge they have with breaking these experiences in is that you have an expectation when you go to a theme park of what kind of attractions you're going to do, and this probably isn't on your list. But also, I just got to bring it up. It's not so much an attraction, but kind of part of this customization thing was the glow with the show ears, where the ears would connect to a show. They brought on a 2.0 version where you used to be able to use the Shop Disney Parks app to create them, change their color. The big flaw with this is when you wore them, you couldn't see them. So you were providing a show for everyone but you. However, when you had a group of people and it would provide a neat effect, they would use them oftentimes for like film shoots. In fact, at Disneyland, they would provide a special seating area if you had to go with the show ears for a brief period of time, because that was really where it made an effect. One guy with ears that kind of changes color isn't really going to make a big impact. But there they are, and I got my pair somewhere. But they it didn't really catch on. That might be the understatement here.
And not only did they not catch on, but then with the upgrade of the Disney app, they stopped being supported. So now now I can't even like customize them myself unless I go on YouTube and find the hacks that are out there on how to hack your glow to the show ears.
So, another one of these kinds of experiences was the reimagination of Test Track in 2012, where you would design your own car at a design station, and then you would be able to compare how your car did. Now, what's different about this one is it's not the experience. It's an additive experience to going on Test Track. You still have Test Track, but now you added this element where you're designing your car in this what is essentially wait time, right? You're taking queue space to do it, and it's not based on just designing your car for design's sake. In 2013, Magic Bands rolled out, which is sort of the pinnacle of the launch of the Next Generation experience, or My Disney Experience. And with that came A Pirate's Adventure, Treasures of the Seven Seas, which is very similar to the Kim Possible experience over at Epcot, except without the phone. But you did it, it was throughout Adventureland, and you would go to things and there would be little interactive elements throughout Adventureland. This was designed to have Fastpass. If you look at where it was designed to have a Fastpass queue, but it never opened with it. By the time this rolled out, the Next Generation team had seen huge turnover. The Next Generation team started as one group, and with the struggles that they faced, basically evolved into a whole new group with a lot more theme park experience and trying to take basic ideas. Originally they came in trying to reinvent it and didn't want to be bound by what was considered the classic experience, but then they tried to basically evolve their thinking into evolving the current experience instead of trying to create a new experience. So there was a lot of turnover with that group. So a lot of things that they had designed had dreams of doing, by this time were starting to go by the wayside. And in 2016, Bruce Vaughan left WDI and was replaced by Bob Weiss, who was a long-term engineer. Was the original sort of lead on Disney's MGM Studios, which became Hollywood Studios. Also did the DCA reimagining, as well as Shanghai Disneyland. And what made them change their thinking was not Disney at all. It was Harry Potter. What Harry Potter Land had shown was that guests were interested in experiential worlds. And Disney found this out on their own when they reinvented Disney California Adventure and created Cars Land. And while people enjoy Radiator Springs Racers, what people really loved was being able to walk through Cars Land. And you've seen Disney continue this trend with immersive lands like Toy Story Land and Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. And I would think that trend will continue. Universal is continuing that trend, or will continue. That was sort of the pivot. Was we're not trying to create an interactive experience. We're trying to create an immersive experience. So if you take something that was built, a ride that was built during this time, like Toy Story Midway Mania, that was basically you going through a video game, right?
Right.
Pow, 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 pow. What was the call to action? Let's play a video game with the Toy Story characters. Look at a similar kind of experience where you have the Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run. It's not about playing the game. It's about piloting the Millennium Falcon. The game element is just there as a way to bring the experience of piloting the Millennium Falcon to life. No one has ever dreamed of being inside a toy car, or whatever they call a ride vehicle at Toy Story Midway Mania. So you can still have interactive experiences, but it's about creating the experience, and where the interactive elements enhances that. So why did these things not succeed long term? Not that 9 years is anything to sneeze at. One is guest interest. Go around. Guests wouldn't. I mean, it's pretty clear early on when they dropped the second location that this was not going to be. Sorcerers of Magic Kingdom was not as successful as they had dreamed it to be. You go around the cruise ship, there are people playing the game, but it's not a critical mass by any stretch. Second is capacity. These are fairly small things. Now, there's no interest, so that's okay, but they're not big money. I mean, people eating experiences like Smuggler's Run is, or Rise of Resistance, or Slinky Dog Dash. They're pretty small scale. And, Bob Iger likes to tell the story about, saxophone wax, right? Like you could be the world's best maker of saxophone wax, but you're the only one. That's such a small market. Why are you investing in this? So the question was, why are we investing so much in these experiences, particularly annual pass holder catering experiences, when we have bigger fish to fry? We want to dream big. And if you look back at Disney tried a lot, and there's no problem in trying a lot, but there was lots of things that they did here which were limited to very, very few people. And I think they realized they're going to play the longer game and try and get to a lot of people. Disney has always had trouble executing technology. Still not a problem today. I mean, still a problem today.
ESPN Plus.
ESPN Plus people realized yesterday.
Yes.
Another thing was sustainment. A video game is only good for so much. It doesn't have, you have classic attractions that have been around for 40, 50 years, whereas these, you do it and you've done it, and there's really not a lot of repeat value. And that goes into the other challenge where they perceived as a novelty. I mean, I think the executives thought seeing your name on Small World was a much bigger deal than any guest actually thought it was. Like, because the magic then became how'd they do that, as opposed to I got to do that. And at some point, it just isn't that impressive anymore when you see it. Seeing your name at 12 different attractions it comes across like initiative and not like a storytelling device.
Yeah, I was going to say I was far more impressed when I rode Snow White, the mine train. And then about 20 minutes later, I got a notification on my phone, and there was a picture of me in a little video that they'd crafted through the PhotoPass experience. I was wearing my magic band, and so when like I say, 20 minutes later, all of a sudden, hey, look, there's a photo and video of me aboard that attraction. That surprised me and impressed me.
And I think you hit on something where, we talked about what does this mean? We talked about how they've moved from interactive to immersion, but it's the technology needs to support the experience, not be the experience. Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run has an amazing technology that allows it to get capacity that it doesn't appear it has. Yes. But you wouldn't know it unless someone told you or you really thought about it. But when you go there, it feels like an intimate experience that's not. But they don't go, hey, look, this is cool, we're going to spin it. Whereas a lot of the things that they tried here was, hey, look at what we can do with the technology. Not that there's any real storytelling reason to do it, or they craft a storytelling reason. And I think you can see that with Sorcerers of the Magic Kingdom. You can totally say, hey, we can create a video game. What should it be? Oh, we should battle Disney villains. Like, there's no real reason that should be happening in Frontierland, but it is.
Right.
And, it was definitely something where they had the technology and then they tried to figure out what to do with it, as opposed to having an idea and then figuring out how to do it.
And to some extent, you felt a little odd doing it at times too. Whereas when I'm walking through Diagon Alley and I see the kids, with their wands and waving their wand, and because you have to, with that, what it is it's a certain motion that your wand has to follow in order to trigger something. And that, it adds to the ambiance of the area as you're walking down Diagon Alley to have people waving wands. Is what you expect to see, in that environment. Whereas, like you say, when you're at, you don't really expect to be anywhere and see somebody holding a card and then reaching into their pocket and pulling up another card.
At one point, Galaxy's Edge, they kind of tried to make it seem like it was going to have a lot of these elements in it. And it does have the Play Disney Parks app is still a thing and still supported.
Yes. I love
it. But it makes sense that you get to build a lightsaber. It makes sense that you can build a droid and play with it. It doesn't necessarily make sense if we went in there and we started flashing our magic band everywhere. And so I think there's been a major transition from tech first, moving it, which is part of what that was the whole idea between living characters, right? Using technology to do this, where it's now we want to do this. What's the technology to make it happen? Not saying that they don't develop technology for technology's sake, like Stuntronics, which will be used to have Spider-Man at Avengers Campus. But they found a natural way to have a man flipping through the air make sense, and it's this. I think we don't appreciate right now the transformation that Disney Parks is going to have to go through. And we've seen it with, for those of you that grew up in the 80s and 90s, you always heard of the era where the 9 old men left and the new generation came in. And it made it seem, now the 9 old men left in a staggered way, but it made it seem like basically they left after, Fox and the Hound, and then there was a whole new generation that came in and started working after that point. Well, and then we saw it happen again when that generation, with the CGI revolution, was replaced with new filmmakers, whether they didn't want to learn CGI. There's still people there, obviously, but there was a big turnover because the technology had changed. Due to COVID, we're seeing a lot of people leave Imagineering. And it's important. Many of the Imagineers that we know today as being those headliner Imagineers were birthed out of Epcot. There was a big expansion to build Epcot, while at the same time they're getting ready to open Tokyo Disneyland. So there was a whole lot of new Imagineers. After it opened, a lot left, but the ones who stayed kind of became a generational group of Imagineers. Well, time being what it is, and the fact that the projects are, dried up now, a lot of people are taking this opportunity to leave, right? Kevin Rafferty, Joe Rohde, we've heard others, and I don't want to get another personnel one, so I'm not going to do others that aren't as public. But there's been a big, transition in Imagineering, as there is in any organization. And so the next generation of Imagineers, are going to come up from the ranks, or from outside, in probably rare occasion. So it's really hard to look at what the future of Disney parks is going to be. But what it seems to be is that, especially with Disney acquiring these major franchises, they're going to continue that path. You're going to see more franchise-based storytelling, like it or not, but you're going to see it as an experience. Like Pandora is a great example, right? The rides itself are so much, but what do people talk about? Oh, I got to go to Pandora. And you're going to see that trend, and they're going to use technology to support it. Technology is not going away, but you're going to see it used in order to support experiences. The big example being the sort of next thing they're trying, the next big idea is Galactic Star Cruiser, where you're going to basically have an immersive 3-day experience, and they're going to have all sorts of amazing technology, but it's being used to support this new form of storytelling and Imagineering is going to try out. I don't know if it's going to be successful. I don't know if it's going to be good, but they are dreaming big with it, and it'll be interesting to see. So recently, Tilak Mandati, who's the CTO of Disney Parks, gave a presentation at APA talking about the theme park metaverse, right? And so he talked about things like they're going to use AR, AI, the Internet of Things, to kind of keep building those storytelling moments and even build them outside of the theme parks. So examples being like, at many children's hospitals, they have Turtle Talk with Crush. There's no reason you can't have Turtle Talk of Crush outside of a theme park. It's not a huge capital investment, but will we see that home where I can set up a meeting with Crush? No reason you can't with the technology we have. So they're going to keep using technology, but that idea that people want things tailored to them individually, and people want things that are purely interactive, has seemed to evolve. You're still going to see things like the Play Disney Parks app, I think, but those are used more as a wait time diversion or a way to kind of increase capacity as opposed to the true experience itself.
I'm just trying to kind of like wrap my head around it a bit, because there's so I'm not sure. Let me think. What's the word I'm looking for? There's such a variety of ways to do that now, from what you're talking about, because we have these computers, right in our hand. And so, it'll be the level of interactivity is very, very broad, I guess is the word. Because here's an example. When Batuu opened, they spoke of it being an immersive experience where you would be on this adventure and the cast would interact with you in specific ways depending. And we haven't seen that come to fruition in the way, to the extent and level that was being discussed. And I know for some people that's a disappointment. I know for me it was a relief, because I love using the data pad, but I was so intimidated by this notion of interactive with like stormtroopers that I would turn off my phone. Like certain times I would like play with my phone for a little while and then I'd turn it off, make sure I wasn't in the app, because I was like, I didn't want to be quite, to that level of I like my space. So I'm interested to see, because some people embrace that and other people see it. They wouldn't want their name to just be on display for everybody in the boat to see when they're on Small World, that type of thing. So it's going to be very interesting to see kind of the consumer reaction to this as well.
Well, and as I think, to your point, now that phones can do so much, it's not impressive, and so Disney, what they are banking on is, one is execution of themed experiences, and number two is scale. We could debate all you want about where Rise of the Resistance ranks in theme park attractions, but you can't say it's small,
right?
Or that anyone could build that.
Right.
It's they dreamt big, and I think it's very much a statement of saying, "Hey, we can dream big." And I think you're going to see more large scope attractions, because they feel that that's where they can succeed. Large scale attractions inside an immersive experience, immersive world. So you have things like, I mean, this isn't so immersive, but Runaway Railway, where you go in, it has this moment where you're literally stepping inside a cartoon, right? Then you have the second part of the queue, and then you go on and things are not what they seem, which is a huge scope. I mean, anyone can have ET say your name, right? And that's been happening since, the early 90s, 90s, right? And so at some point, you just realize it's not as impressive as you think it is. Right. And in many ways, it just kind of seems hokey. Now, granted, theme parks are what am I looking for? A gimmick business, right?
Yes,
like we're going to have, now it goes upside down, or now it goes back.
Now it's on fire.
Right. But in some time, Disney should try and transcend that. Not saying, Datapad being a perfect example. It adds to that experience, but it isn't the experience. No one goes and says, I can't wait to do Rise of the Resistance, Rise of the Smuggler's Run, and the Datapad. The Datapad is something you're doing while you're walking around with your friends. And maybe a really in-depth person wants to do the whole thing and do it frontward, backward, frontwards. But I don't think they have any illusion that most guests walking around the park might not even know Datapad exists. And, in many ways, you look at Slinky Dog Dash, which was really the start of the Play Disney Parks app at Walt Disney World, which is, it's just designed to be something fun to play in the queue while you're waiting. Because with Fastpass, the idea was you're waiting longer and you're not moving. And so you need to have something to kind of keep you occupied. It's the new version of the queue video. Because you're going to be looking at your phone anyway. You might as well have something Disney to do while you do it. And so I think, I don't want to say the Living Characters Initiative was a bust, because I think it was part of the journey. And I think in many ways it was trying to make immersive experiences with characters. And then I think now you're saying we can make immersive experiences with environments. I mean, just look at what they changed with DCA. DCA had some great attractions when it opened. Miss Lauren and Screamin', those were, they're good rides. But they had no environment, so to speak of. A interactive postcard or everything was today, right? And then they realized that's what made it not feel Disney to a lot of people. It wasn't the program. It wasn't the 20 some odd attractions. It was the environment itself. And we're unfortunately not able to go into Adventures Campus. But what I think was interesting is when you look at Adventures Campus, or even Ratatouille at Epcot, and Epcot, that's being put into an existing pavilion. They're still talking about the immersive experience of walking into their queue. When they do the publicity, they talk about it, where they didn't used to talk about it, unless they were trying to make you feel like you were, we were justifying the fact that it had a 4-hour wait. Oh no, Indiana Jones has a cool queue. But now they actually talk about it as part of the experience, which is, I think, a smart move, because it makes it go from a 3-minute experience or whatever it is to a 30-minute experience.
But it's been a fascinating evolution, because for someone like me, I can remember Disneyland was a lot of just in essence switchbacks. When I think of like Pirates of the Caribbean, I think of Matterhorn. You have the structure there, but it wasn't like the queue itself. Even the handrails and things are becoming more and more like thematic. I don't recall them being very thematic when I was young to the same extent. But then you have Indiana Jones and Roger Rabbit. I remember that was like, wow, this is so amazing. I can remember the impression that it made because of that. Then a few years later, Fastpass, and you weren't even in the queue ever, right? You didn't even see it. Well, and so it's just this weird, it's just this fascinating evolution to me.
Fastpass made it complicated too, because Fastpass, you had certain guests who had no time in the queue, and they had the rest of the guests who were spending more time in the queue.
Time.
So that's where you came. I think that's where the Play Disney Parks kind of stemmed from Qtivities, which was you initially put at Soarin', they would have games, and now it's evolved 1,800 times since then. But the idea was I can't have it be a true storytelling experience because not everyone's going to do it. I can't have it be seen, the first scene of this experience. But at the same time, I need to entertain the guests that are there. And so there was this whole thing called scene zero, right? Where it's like, how do we make the queue feel good for the people stuck in it? Because not only are they in it, they're in it longer because they're not moving. So, if you could stand through anything, if you're walking, because you're kind of focused on walking, you're looking at whatever's changing. But if you're standing at the same point, particularly as something like Soarin', where it's sort of a dispatched attraction, it can get old pretty fast. And now you're going into this weird sort of evolution of it, where now they don't even consider it, how do I make the queue entertaining? But it's, what story am I telling in the queue? And then how does Fastpass even impact that? We don't know what Fastpass is going to be like at Rise of the Resistance. Hasn't had it yet. But, there they had, okay, you're going to have a sort of I would say, not a mundane queue, but a very,
it's picturesque. It's it's placemaking.
Right, but there's no story happening there. I mean, it's an establishing shot.
Right.
But it's not, hey, look, it's not like a Roger Rabbit where like you're getting the whole plot of what you're about to do.
Yes.
And then they're like, okay, so now you're going to go into these sort of setup experiences. So you feel like it's part of the ride. It is. I mean, we could debate all the, where does Rise of the Resistance experience start? I wouldn't have an answer for you. But, you go through it, then, you go into the orientation room, you see Ray and BB-8 and all that. Then you go into the transport. Then you go into the
prison.
You get that big shot of the stormtroopers.
Yes,
then
the
big put the queue where the cast are interacting with you. Then you get interrogated, and then you finally get loaded onto the vehicle.
Yes.
And in the past, we would have said getting loaded on the vehicle is the start of the attraction. There, it's hard. I don't know what it is.
Right? Yeah, right.
And in many ways, all those experiences help build capacity because the main ride is still the same length as it is. They didn't need to do all that other stuff. But now, if you consider that's 20 minutes, give or take, of stuff, that's 20 minutes you're occupying your guests in a very fun way that's unlike anything else. And not that every attraction they build is going to be like that, but you even see echoes of it at Runaway Railway, where you get loaded into theater, and there's still plenty of queue after that, but you feel like, okay, I'm here, I'm going. This is fun now. I'm not just switching back looking at movie posters.
Yeah, I've only experienced it in the era of COVID, so I do not know such things. But
true.
But but that goes to, if you, in thinking about these types of experiences currently, it can leave you disjointed from the experience, and it can impact your experience. At Universal Islands of Adventure, Spider-Man, amazing attraction, but there's a newsroom which does a lot of the exposition for why what's happening is happening and why you should care about what's going on. And if you're somebody that kind of element is important to your enjoyment of it, with the current COVID scenario, you don't really experience that story because, with the 6 foot, with the blocking to make sure you have distance, you don't spend as much time in that room to really kind of get that exposition as clearly.
We could talk about how poorly I think Universal handles the queuing in COVID, where they put the stop places are on blind corners, so you don't know if someone is ahead of you or not. That's
totally different. I'm sticking on subject because
I just
but it was I realized that
of the day. But
with Spider-Man, I realized that, and I realized it with because, like I said, that was Mickey's Runaway Railway for me the first time. Was was during this era, and there were elements of the experience that are simply gone because the queuing has become part of the I mean, imagine if they decided for whatever reason, oh well, we're not going to do the transport, of Rise of the Resistance, and so we're just going to dump you, in essence, we're just going to dump you into that bay. It would still be a pleasant experience. I mean, it's a nice joyride to safety, but so much of that is the setup and everything leading up to it is why it's so amazing.
we talk about it as if this is a new thing, but at the same time, I look at the
Oh,
first
right.
one of these being Haunted Mansion, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which was bred out of complete necessity to get you underneath the train tracks.
Mm-hmm.
That was finding a problem. That wasn't going like, hey, we should just do this, and but then I think it's funny to me that they basically didn't do that again, right? That was the one and done because they had a problem, and then then they decided to fix it. Now there's been plenty of things like Indiana Jones where you go see a movie or something, but in terms of making something that I would consider an experience, Haunted Mansion, and then going, I can't even think of what another sort of. No, because I think that in there you're just watching a movie to tell you about. It's just a different way to show you a safety video.
Yeah.
I don't think of that as.
But even
nothing happens in there.
Yeah, no, yeah, true. And the other is more like a place, like a setting. Not so much. It doesn't progress the story. You're just in a museum, and it's a different kind of thing. Yeah, no, I don't. I'll have to think more on that. But yeah, other than Mansion, is there a place really when before they ask you how many in your party has your adventure begun? Kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think that's. I mean, I'm not saying that the Mansion is Mansion is popular because of that, but I remember going on Mansion as a kid and thinking, "Wow, I mean, this is different, right? This is there's something before the ride,
right?
Which is, at least at that point, was unheard of, and the original test track was a good
because it had all those test machines and that kind of stuff. But once again, that's more setting an environment than propelling a story. Because like Space Mountain. I think of Space Mountain similarly, right? It's a lot of visuals to kind of reinforce where you are, the setting of the location.
And immersion's not new in any stretch. I mean, it's it's part of what made Disneyland, but the level that they're going to, partly because there's when you have a franchise piece, it's I don't want to say it's easier, but you have a lot more reference and you have a lot more of what guests want to make it feel that way. Without the cantina in Star Wars: A New Hope, Oga's would not be as enticing as it is.
That's true.
You have those fun details like in Cars Land with the every third yellow light blinking slower. You have those sort of, I don't want to say tricks, but you have those moments that you want to recreate for your guests that they can then experience. Whereas, I mean, in Test Track, the original is a good example. It brought you into a test track, so to speak. It had displays, but it wasn't there to. It was there to occupy you. It was there to make a heck of a lot of noise, but it wasn't there to set the stage for what you were doing. Now, then you went to the orientation room where they would really go through each one and kind of give you the play-by-play.
Now, I have to say that there was some stuff in there where they were like kind of smashing things as you were in the room. And I think that that's part of what kind of gave you that payoff when you're accelerating and you feel like you're going to smash. I think that there's when, what do they call it when they give you a hint of something and then they pay it off later?
Foreshadowing?
Yeah, it's like a foreshadowing of your experience, even more so than I think other attractions would have offered.
And there's no question. I think Test Track was a game changer because, particularly at Epcot, I think that and Living Seas were the ones where they were like, okay, we're going to take you there as opposed to you're going to get on a ride to celebrate this. Living Seas with the hydrolators, as silly as they were cool, especially as a kid who might not realize. I used to work at the Seas Pavilion after the hydrolators were gone, and people would come back and be like wondering what happened and how did we manage to do this, because I thought we raised the Seas Pavilion up. And I'm not talking about just 6-year-olds. So I mean, it did, and particularly I think because at the end you had to take a hydrolator back. It kind of did set the scene of here you're going. And once again, these things are all on a continuum of where, originally the idea was themed ride inside theme park, but the dispatch, that's your show, much like a movie, okay, here's the beginning of the show. and everything else was sort of a coming attraction. And now we're in the whole thing where just entering the land itself, like Galaxy's Edge or even Toy Story Land, is part of the show. But, and I can't wait to see what now Avengers Campus is not going to be on the scale of Galaxy's Edge, but I'm curious to see what they've done with it, having learned what they've learned over the last 20 years.
Right.
And, the time will come. And, as we said, it's talking about the future of Disney parks is very difficult right now. I mean, emotionally at its core, whereas, there's not a lot of brand new dreaming going on right now, but it'll be curious to see what they do moving ahead. I mean, even the Epcot transformation is trying to add more placemaking to Epcot, making it feel a little bit less of park with pavilion to more of an integrated experience. And we'll see how successful they are. But the future is hopefully bright, but unfortunately not so bright for Sorcerers of the Magic Kingdom and its ilk. I don't think you're going to see a lot of marketing talking about you're going to step into a video game, which we saw so much in the early 2000s, right? Video gaming and they would always talk about attention spans of guests and all this stuff. And in the end, sort of tried and true concepts, but at a bigger scale is where Disney has found success lately.
Do you know what I want Disney to do?
What's that?
I want them to embrace Google AR. So tomorrow, if I wanted Magic Happens Parade to happen in my hallway, I could have it. That's what I want. I'm very simple in my needs. I just want to be able. I want it to be like that in the Star Wars Holiday Special when he has the circus come be on his table, and I'd be able to do that with my my phone and have a little AR and look, it's like I can put on goggles and it's like there's a parade happening on my table.
Well, and they specifically called out AR as one of the things they're looking to do. Especially, I think you're not.
Have you played with Yoda? Have you had Yoda? Have you had Grogu come visit yet?
I have. So I got to admit, I'm not a huge AR guy. Marvel Comics used to have Marvel AR, where like you could bring the comic page to life. Yeah. And I just kind of found it a little distracting from like reading my comic book, but.
There is nothing like I just had so much fun when Rise of Skywalker was happening, and you could like look out your window and it would look like an X-wing fighter had flown and was hovering just outside your window. Yeah, that was fun. I enjoy that kind of thing. AT-ATs walking in my backyard, porgs all over my table. I was happy. I want more of this. So I had so much fun. Grogu visited my house the other day. He was sitting on my freezer, and yeah. So it was.
Did you see the tweet from SportsCenter today?
No, which one? Oh no! What did SportsCenter tweet that I missed? We're totally taking you off topic.
Let me see if I can. I don't know how to share. Well, I can probably share my screen. Hang on.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. Okay.
You should be able to share that application.
Speaking of Grogu,
he's clicking. I can hear it. Oh, that's cute. Oh, how adorable is that? Brady and Mahomes playing in the Super Bowl. Yoda and Grogu. Oh, I like it. Nicely done. Nicely done.
So
sorry, spoiler for all of you who had paused the game to come listen to us. No, I'm just kidding.
Give me poor life. Also, that game was long over before.
I should have known since Jeffrey popped in that the game was over because I know he was hoping for Mahomes. Oh, thank you, Charlotte. I'm glad you're having a good time.
Thanks, Amy.
Yeah. Oh, thanks, Amy. She's my cousin.
About Disney theme parks all the time.
No, Amy's my cousin, so I may have a little bit of an in there.
Oh, full disclosure. Good for you. So, in the end, to sum up, I just can't wait to get back to a Disney theme park.
I know. I was thinking you and I just need to have let's sit around and talk about all the things that we miss about Disney theme parks. Because I heard you guys were making some Disney food at your house too.
Yeah. You brought up Magic Happens. I'm like, if that doesn't come back, like if they just take this opportunity to make a new parade, like that will be like a trivia line. Like what was, because that thing lasted what, like 3 weeks?
Yeah. Yeah. Very short.
But the song has never left my head.
That will not happen. That will not happen. I will not allow it. I will lay across Harbor Boulevard.
We'll see how well that worked out for Marty.
But yeah, I heard Alex made you Chef Bill's corn chowder.
Yeah, which he had a different name for because that's what's in the cookbook, but I renamed it for him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
over here I made Mickey waffles and I made Main Street popcorn with like the proper Pop Secret with a kettle and oil and the whole 9 yards.
I want to thank Nestle for not discontinuing the Mickey bars after Mickey's birthday was over because we've still been enjoying those as a little home away from home treat.
Yeah, it is bizarre to have gone this long without. I know you've been even longer not in a Disney theme park than I have because I went in December to Florida.
I was at Disneyland mid-March or early March, and Disney World we went back in, let's say early September. Yeah, early September. Yeah, and I don't know when we're going to go back. I mean, part of it's just I miss the parks, but I miss the excitement of the future of the parks. There's not a lot of talk of. I mean, there's a little bit, but there's not a lot of talk about new attractions or things. Because we don't know. I mean, Ratatouille's sitting there ready to go, and we're just kind of waiting for the circumstances to be able to open it. So, and
we just watched them put boards up on Tron, which was really looked like it was really rolling along, and then all of a sudden you got the openings are blocked off. So yeah, it'll be. Yeah, I agree. I'm excited to be talking about the upcoming Disney parks projects with an assurance rather than a skepticism.
But we always got things to look forward to at LP. Tomorrow
That's for sure.
is the anniversary of 101 Dalmatians, which shows you how much the movie industry has changed, where they would release 101 Dalmatians in January.
Wow.
So Tony's going to have a full sort of a history of that movie. I told him he had to actually type it up and then Xerox it.
Awesome.
As a way to pay tribute to the film.
Very, very good. Yes.
And then starting Thursday, the Sundance Film Festival. So Alex will be there covering everything that could even possibly be tangentially related to the Walt Disney Company. It's virtual this year, as many things are, but usually our friends at Hulu or Fox Searchlight will pick up some projects out of there. So we'll have coverage of that too.
Very, very nice. And then tomorrow afternoon, I'm going to be back with Doobie and Jeremiah and Mike C. And we're going to be giving you a roundup of the park news, what's been happening in the Disney parks. And then on Tuesdays, Rebecca Burbank and I will be talking about the Disney merchandise on our show, Barely Necessities. So yeah, lots going on here at Laughing Place. If you enjoyed this, do us a favor, click like on the stream because that helps other people find us and lets us know that you enjoyed it. And if you hit subscribe, then you'll be notified when Laughing Place goes live. And we go live often. We have 2 or 3 shows many times throughout the week. So yeah, lots of fun stuff always.
And if I can just make a quick plug with WandaVision happening. Mac has been doing a bunch of new initiatives, including taking over for you and Mike from Mando Monday is now Marvel Monday, as we head into a long stretch of Marvel content as we go from WandaVision to Falcon and the Winter Soldier to whatever is after that. And then he's launched his new podcast, The Zax of Life, which, if you're not familiar with Zax, he's a Marvel villain and is sort of a nice companion piece to the Star Wars podcast, Who's the Bosk? So the 90s are alive and well at Laughing Place, or I guess 80s. But we always end the show sharing our highlights from last week and what we're anticipating for this week. And I'm going to share my pick from last week. It was a tough week. It was a hard week to get through, a lot going on in the real world. but it was having the Holy Moly Crew on Wheel of Fortune, Celebrity Wheel of Fortune on ABC Primetime. So the two contestants were Rob Riggle, Joe Tessitore, and Jenny Mai. And
cool.
It was a lot of fun to see them interact on that show.
Have you checked out The Hustler? That's ABC, right? Or is it
yes.
not? Have you checked that out?
I'm very good at picking out The Hustler. I'm like,
are you?
Yes, I've
Gideon,
gotten everyone right.
We finally got Gideon to watch it with us the other day. Gideon's my 11-year-old, and he, in the first few in the introduction, said, "I picked that one," and he was right.
Oh, wow.
So, but he hasn't watched any other ones with us, so I don't know if that was just beginner's luck or if he's good at it. For me, my pick last week, I finally caught up on the new Disney Channel mystery, Secrets of Sulphur Springs. Okay, first off, it's set in Louisiana, and the area is gorgeous. There's this trees that they're constantly around that are just stunning. They're so old and stately and properly eerie. It's amazing. But mostly, I'm just enjoying that it's a family-friendly mystery, and currently we're 3 episodes in, so I'm enjoying it, and I have fun because they have an app on the Disney Now, right? Yeah. Disney Now. There's a game, and so they have a game episode, like chapter for each episode, and so you have like little tasks in the app, and it relates back to the episode that you just saw. Or if you're, doing that relaxation through coloring, they have a Secrets of Sulphur Springs coloring element to the app too, so you can take the episode beyond. So
I've been really enjoying that, and in fact, it's they aired the first 3 episodes as like a movie, and then they had the second episode or 4th episode, depending on how you count it. That's Friday, and it was weird because it's been a long time since Disney Channel has been destination television for me. I mean, I watch a lot of it, but it's not been like, oh, I can't wait. And it's been a lot of fun, and it appeals to all levels. If you liked, I'll say that sort of kid creepy, like so weird, or it's a little bit more mellow than like an Are You Afraid of the Dark, but
it harkened back to, for me, of those old serials that Disney had like way back in the day, like, so I want to say like, what's the one with the really, really bad accents, like Treasure of Matacumbe, right? And like that kind of level of creep, but yeah.
And no monsters or anything like that. It's just a mystery.
No, yeah, no, it's a girl went missing from a hotel, and there's a legend in the city that she haunts the hotel, and these new arrivals are trying to uncover the mystery. It's fun. There's a little bit of oh no, I'm not going to say anymore. I'll let you discover it on your own. But I'm enjoying it, and the kids in it are very personable. Like I really like them, and I'm enjoying a lot. Sometimes they like to go with like brat as a type and there hasn't been like that role in this yet, and so I'm enjoying that.
Next week, I'm looking forward to WandaVision because this is the first episode that they didn't screen, so I get to experience it with the rest of the world at the same time, or whenever I hit play. And cannot wait. 4 episodes in, starting to get things moving, but there's been a lot of talk online about whether it was moving too slow. And I say, your television, move as slow as you want, and let us enjoy the ride. We know there's going to be a payoff, and I just cannot wait for another episode of WandaVision.
Oh, I too am very excited about WandaVision, which surprises me because I don't typically embrace Marvel, but I am very much enjoying the show and am eager to uncover it. But since Benji picked that, I am going to go off the board and talk about how I just received a collection of DVDs I purchased. Lucasfilm's Young Indiana Jones Chronicles.
Oh, wow.
And so I decided to kind of go retro and I pulled those out, and yeah, so I'm eager to revisit those, and my hope is to use them as a bit of a launching pad to do some like kind of history related stuff with Gideon. Right now, with school at home and everything, trying to find creative ways to bring in education, because you don't have as many fun options when it's just you and kid.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we're doing. It's all good.
So that's our show. I'll be back next week. I'm gonna have Alex here to talk about all the fun at Sundance and
awesome,
and what Disney has done at that expo thus far, as of whatever happens by next Sunday. And if you didn't get a chance on Hulu, there's an illusionist, Derek is who was actually an illusionist at residence in Imagineering. And we saw his show off Broadway, and this is a film version of it, and it's really neat. So check it out in and of itself on Hulu if you have the time. And you ran out of stuff on Disney Plus. So thanks so much. Thanks, Rebecca.
Oh, anytime, Ben. Always have fun talking I with you.
And I want to give a shout out to all those people that worked, created, and operated Sorcerers of the Magic Kingdom. You had a great run. Thanks for making it, and we look forward to it being a trivia question in a future Disney trivia game.
That's for sure.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.